Waking up in the desert of the real can be a traumatic event for any person. Living in such inhumane conditions could make any red pill yearn for the comforts of the Matrix simulation. This was the sad fate of Cypher, who once was a loyal follower of Morpheus. However, in the end, he became the Judas of the Nebuchadnezzar. But what if he had an accomplice? What if another member of the crew helped him carry out his treacherous plans, just to end up betrayed and killed like the others? Today we're going to dig a little deeper into one of the oldest theories in the Matrix universe. Which member of the Nebuchadnezzar helped Cypher in betraying Morpheus? Also, what if I told you that Cypher was corrupted by the Construct? Welcome to Matrix Explained.
Welcome to the desert of the real.
One of the questions that still keeps the Matrix fans up at night is, how did Cypher enter the Matrix to meet with Agent Smith without anybody in the Nebuchadnezzar finding out during or after the fact? If we automatically take the theory of another crew member helping Cypher as true, then we may have a good explanation for it. Mouse was the youngest crew member, a talented software programmer who created the Woman in Red, which was inspired by a real woman that existed in the Matrix simulation. We can point out many examples of this young prodigy's programming skills. In one scene, we see Mouse inside the Matrix holding a magazine that features the model he used as inspiration for the Woman in Red. He offers Neo some time alone with her if he wanted.
The woman in the red dress. I designed her. She doesn't talk very much, but if you'd like to meet her, I can arrange a much more personalized milieu.
This means that Mouse did not only create her to serve as part of a training program for the Red Pills, but he may have had a crush with the model that existed in the Matrix. Thus, he recreated her in his simulation. This set a dangerous precedent because it shows that Mouse desired something that he can only obtain in the Matrix. So he created a micro-matrix within the construct to try and satisfy his desires.
To deny our own impulses is to deny the very thing that makes us human.
As we mentioned in a previous video, hedonism is the philosophy of the search for pleasure, and that state of thought is shared between Cypher and Mouse, more than we are willing to admit. On one hand, Mouse offers Neo the opportunity to satisfy his urges with a gorgeous female program, and on the other, Cypher offers Neo an alcoholic drink and some advice. In their own ways, both men talk about how dire life is in the real world and how they deal with it or how they regret it. In the mess hall, as the crew is eating their balanced meal of protein soup, Mouse rambles about how chicken tastes like. Interesting how this conversation about food in the Matrix happens right after Cypher had a steak dinner with the agents. The movie is telling us that Mouse and Cypher not only share similar philosophy and desires, but that they act towards them in similar ways. This theory now begins to solidify. Everything could have started with the prophecy of the One. Cypher could have started doubting Morpheus' actions and begin to realize that he was miserable in the real world. Some of you have asked, why doesn't Cypher just create his own restaurant inside the construct? That way, he can have steak whenever he wants. Well, who's to say he didn't have one already? Maybe Mouse used the construct to offer different pleasures to Cypher and the other members of the crew, just like he offered Neo. This may have started the corruption process within Cypher. He got hooked on the pleasures that the construct provided, only for reality to eventually come back and ruin everything. He will wake up and be reminded of the hell that he is living in. Cypher may have coaxed or even coerced Mouse to find a way for him to reconnect to the Matrix in secrecy. With Mouse's help, Cypher could be connected and disconnected from the simulation undetected. Mouse's job was to stand guard and make sure nobody discovers them. Cypher's job was to modify the surveillance monitors and delete any evidence that he was in the Matrix, doing things that he shouldn't be doing, like meeting with the enemy for dinner. The plan worked without a hitch. Cypher enters and exits the Matrix. He informs Mouse that he struck a deal with the machines so they can be reinserted into the simulation, that both of them can forget Morpheus, the Matrix, the war, and live long, happy lives. This is a lie, of course, since Cypher doesn't need Mouse to set up Morpheus, so he then devises a plan to get rid of any loose ends. After Neo met the Oracle, they all return to the hotel where they enter and exit the Matrix. But something unexpected happens. Neo does a double take on a stray black cat.
Oh, déjà vu.
The deja vu moment meant that the Matrix was changing around them. The agents knew where they were, and they were coming after them. They knew this because Cypher signaled them with his phone, which he secretly tossed in a garbage can outside the abandoned hotel. Cypher knew that Mouse would be the first to be attacked since he was alone inside the hotel. Tank notices that the Matrix was changing and warns Mouse, but it was too late. There was no way out. Mouse was caught in a mousetrap. He makes a stand and dies in a shower of bullets. With Mouse dead, Cypher managed to clear all traces of his accomplice. Cypher separates himself from the group and is found by the authorities. This scene cuts before we can see what happens, but we know that he wasn't harmed. He had a deal with the agents. Cypher communicates with Tank so that he could find him an exit fast, to make sure that he is the first and only one to exit back to the ship. The traitor mapped out everything to a T. He knew how to draw the enemies in, how to separate from the group without raising suspicion, what route to take, and which payphone to use. His plan was working perfectly. Mouse was dead, and Morpheus was captured. All that was left was Neo and the Nebuchadnezzar crew. Just as planned, Cypher was the first to exit the Matrix. He kills Dozer and Tank and begins to unplug his former crewmates one by one. First APOC, then Switch. And right before he was going to kill Neo, Tank surprises Cypher and kills him. Now, if we take our time to analyze this theory, it does make sense. After all, we saw two red pills who were trying to find pleasure within the simulation, to escape the real world that couldn't fulfill their needs. The only way to fulfill their hedonistic views on life was to return to the Matrix permanently. The possibility that Mouse was in cahoots with Cypher is highly probable. This would be a fascinating story for a spin-off or prequel of The Matrix, maybe in comic book form, a piece of media that finally shows in detail all the planning Cypher had to do for his betrayal to work. And if by any chance this theory ends up being true, it confirms that some crew members do use the construct to fulfill their personal desires, and are slowly becoming addicted to it. But do you agree? Do you believe that Cypher and Mouse worked together to betray Morpheus? Would you like to see a comic book that shows the events that led Cypher to work with the agents? For Matrix Explained, please leave a like and subscribe. And thank you for visiting the Desert of the Real.